I'm David Walters, and this is Innovatio. Welcome back, everyone, and welcome to Innovatio. First of all, I'd like to especially thank some of our listeners over in the US, the Middle East, and as far as India. Honestly, I was not expecting the podcast to get the reach that it's got within its first month. It's been a really exciting week for us as well. FeedSpot ranked us within the top 10 drone podcasts, which again is fantastic given we've only been running for a month. If you're listening via Apple or on the Spotify podcast shows, please leave a review. The reception so far for the podcast has been fantastic, and again has far exceeded my expectations. Now on to today's show. I'm really pleased to invite Philip Rowse from Cube Autopilot. He leads up the hardware team that brought the Pixhawk to life and delivered the Cube Autopilot to the industry. It was also his engineering background that led him to design the Pixhawk 2 and supply the Cube into the Solo over at 3DR along with Chris Anderson. As a company, Cube Autopilot have enabled small-scale operators and leading aerospace organizations to envisage their own piece of future flight, such as NASA, Boeing, and even more recently, some of the UA operators. And for myself personally, huge fan of the system and the way it connects. So without further ado, Philip, welcome to Innovatio.
Thank you very much.
It's great to have you on, and given the time differences, I really appreciate you getting up early, I suppose, over on your side.
I'm assuming it's some ungodly hour of the morning over at your side of things, so yeah.
Excellent. So for those who are not so familiar with you and your journey, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and your journey kind of into this space?
Yeah, well, I'm an aircraft engineer by background. I've worked for, my first organization I worked for was a company called Missionary Aviation Fellowship. They fly bush planes in a lot of the remote areas around the world, delivering medical supplies and aid and generally transporting people around places like Papua New Guinea, Africa, South America, yeah, all sorts of places that were otherwise not really well covered by normal aviation methods. Moved on from there to Boeing Weapons Defense, just for a bit of a balance, you know. Got to get both sides of the equation there, and did work for the Royal Australian Air Force through Boeing, and that was quite an experience as well, working on the what was the latest and greatest of technology on the APC-3 Orion, which unfortunately has now been retired, so that sort of shows my age. So, yeah, moved on from there to all sorts of weird and wacky things, and then got back into the aviation game back in around 2010, where I started back into unmanned aircraft. Bought my first bit of autopilot gear from Basque Aviation down in Melbourne. Bought myself an APM and got hooked back into it, joined the Autopilot team. And yeah, the rest is sort of history. I joined the Pixhawk development project partway through Pixhawk 1. We had a guy named by the code name of Dr. Ziploc was the project lead on Pixhawk 1. Himself, Jeff, and Craig Elder, and a bunch of other people who worked at 3DR put an amazing effort in to bring Pixhawk 1 to market and make that real. Their engineering is very good. Especially a shout out to Jeff Wurzbach. He's the silent engineer in the history of the autopilot industry, because he just works along quite solidly and doesn't tend to get too much recognition. So yeah.
Ah, fantastic.
That's sort of the beginning.
Yeah. So, as a child, then, like for career-wise, was aviation kind of always on your mind? Was it a path you wanted to pursue from the get-go?
Yes, I wanted to be a fighter pilot. Top Gun was definitely my favourite movie back in 1985 when it came out, fifth grade, and yeah, I was hooked, and I used to fly Cessna 185s over in Africa as a teenager, back and forward to school, and got my hands on the controls first time over there. Did some gliding over in Africa as well back in high school, which was good fun in a good wood and fabric glider on the Rift Valley, and yeah, just definitely hooked. Wanted to join the Air Force, obviously, at that stage, as every teenager and young kid who likes airplanes wants to, but unfortunately, I have vision without my contact lenses that gives me a very clear picture about 1 inch in front of my face. And back in those days, laser surgery wasn't really a option, and even if it did, it wasn't acceptable to the Air Force, so that was never going to happen. So I moved to the aircraft engineering side instead.
Ah, excellent, excellent. Yeah, I mean, even now with my contact lenses in, I still struggle with model flying. But I must admit, the first time I transitioned from glasses to contact lenses, and then being able to wear a pair of FPV goggles comfortably and actually not have to use the lens inserts to try and make it look as clear as I could, and actually almost have 20/20 vision on FPV goggles. I mean, yeah, man,
Yeah,
that was that. I remember that day like it was yesterday. It was a crazy day, and it was awesome, man. It was cool. Excellent. So, we've spoken about kind of your interests at an early age. What advice would you give to the next generation that's thinking about coming into this space, whether it's aerospace or the model aircraft kind of areas of expertise? What would be your advice to try and get them engaged within that?
Yeah, get into model aviation as well as the high tech stuff. At the end of the day, it is a little bit too easy now to grab a ready to fly drone and go out and fly. And it actually gets people bored a little bit quick. Tend to find people get into it, they get something off the shelf, they go fly, and they go, yeah, that was fun, now what? Whereas if you put a bit more effort into it and you build something,
yeah,
greater control where the autopilot's not doing the thing for you, doing things old school way. Take the autopilot out, throw it away, have a bit of a play without it, and get to know what's going on, and I think it'll give you a lot more appreciation as to what the autopilot does when you actually move forward to that stage. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I must admit, I first started out model flying with, no supported stabilizers, anything like that. I learnt the hard way. And even, I think my proper real first flight was on one of the very early Bixler models that came out. Shout out to Josh Bixler. You make fantastic aircraft. Yeah, I mean, even just like learning, getting the CFG right, first flight, launching it and it doing this, going all over the place, and you're thinking, yeah, that's not supposed to happen. And understanding some of those basic flight characteristics, to be able to kind of move forward. And funnily enough, I've also, and I felt so sorry for the guy. I saw a guy, he'd built this, it was a scale World War One biplane. And it was lovely. It was beautiful. All out of balsa, petrol engine at the front. And I still don't know to this day why he decided that this was a good idea. And we were at one of the BMFA flying fields, flying one day, and he was fitted this orange flight stabilizer. And this guy had obviously been flying model aircraft for a very long time, and the aircraft was beautiful. It was a really nice, stunning job that he'd done. And to this day, I still don't even know why I didn't ask him, but he'd fitted this orange stabilizer, and it was sitting there on the ground, sitting up probably at about, I don't know, 15, maybe 20 degrees because of the way the wheels were sitting. And he powered it on in this position. It's only thinking back, I think I should have spoke to him. He didn't level the plane off when he powered it on. He left it at this angle. And those that will know with the early orange stabilizers, you have to have it on level to when you stabilize. And he took off, and this poor chap, he took off with this orange stabilizer engaged, and the aircraft was just not doing what it should be. It was all over the place, and I think it got to about 60 feet, and then it just started hurtling towards the cornfield, and it went nose in, caught fire, and that was the end of his plane, and the cornfield, funnily enough, and I just thought, don't do that to your beautiful aircraft. But yeah, definitely learning the basic flying skills, and also when you do move into that space, ensure you're with people that have used the tech and are familiar with it. They can at least provide you some guidance. And
look, I'd say the other way around. It's so much fun learning the wrong way.
Can get quite expensive, Philip.
Try and do it all yourself. Ignore the advice of all the people that have been there before and made those mistakes, and you learn more.
That's definitely
true. Go flying with people that have done it before, and get yourself in the air. I flew enough to realise that I was terrible at it. My eye-hand coordination sucks, and that definitely motivated me on the autonomous path. And yes, I've tried the Orange RX stabilizer. I had that in a little what was it, park flyer of some sort years and years and years ago. And look, they were pretty amazing when you actually look back at the tech that they were using in the time. I mean, this was before the Nintendo Wii came out and the real revolution actually started. I mean, it was the Nintendo Wii that really made it possible with that little nunchuck,
that gyro
motion sensor at the bottom. That suddenly something that was the military could afford, and they were the only ones that could have IMUs. All of a sudden, everyone had access to one in a lounge room, and it's like, well, we don't need computer games. Let's hack this and put this into something real. And the guys that did all of that original work, the one I used to work with a lot was Angus Burt, who started Ardupilot. He's amazing. He's a good friend of mine, and he actually was the one that recommended me to get in contact with the Ardupilot development group in the very first place, as Ardupilot was going through a little bit of a tumultuous time at one stage there, and he was advising me what autopilot to put in this vehicle that we were looking at building, and yeah, he's like, no, definitely Ardupilot, can't go wrong with that. And I've sort of been there ever since. So yeah, he's great.
So what would you say then have been your biggest highlights? With okay, let's actually separate that. What's been your biggest highlights, not just in career, but with the Cube and that as a product? What's really kind of made you go, I'm so glad I'm doing this?
Look, the Cube has been an interesting journey because I started doing the first designs of the Cube before I was contracted by 3D Robotics. The overall concept of how it worked, how it connected to the board, all of that sort of stuff was done. And then I joined 3D Robotics, and we were going to put this Cube as a kit for everyone to replace the Pixhawk 1. We'd got our bug list from Pixhawk 1 and sorted that all out for the Cube. And then it just kept getting roadblocks, and Louis from the Ardupilot development team kept at one stage calling it the pink unicorn, because we talk about this thing and it would just never turn up. I mean, the SparkFun ABC, we actually won the very last. So we are still the standing winners of ABC for the fixed wing flying, because they cancelled it after that. So, it's not really a great claim. But anyway, and we crashed out during it and still won. But anyway, we actually had the first HERE GPS on that aircraft back in 2014. The Cube was built in 2014. We actually had the first F7 version of the Cube in 2014. But there were just so many false starts along the way. We were going to do a solo, Iris++, it was called. I've still got the main board for the thing around here, and that was going to be 3DR's greatest and next product. And then obviously Solo came along. Solo was awesome in so many ways. It really was before it came too early. And it was obviously, as we know, it was rushed out the door too quickly. But it's still flying, and it's still flying with the Cube because we've maintained compatibility. It's running Ardupilot, so it's got all of that backwards and forward compatibility that comes with that. There's people flying their Solos now with orange Cubes in them, doing all sorts of cool stuff with them. But to be able to go to NAB and do that product launch there, and to have DJI react to us the way they did. I mean, they slashed their prices overnight on the Phantom 3 Pro by pretty much half, because we actually were a threat to them. And that was one of those moments of, oh wow, we actually did something. Now, unfortunately, that act suddenly meant that the DJI was a bargain, and it definitely hurt sales. I mean, it was a great vehicle. You can't knock DJI after their vehicles. They are pretty cool. But to be able to do that initial launch, that was really cool. I'd never done anything big like a NAB launch or anything like that. And Colin Gwynn was up there in front of all the cameras, and I was standing behind him, flying the drone, hovering, trying to keep it in shot of all the cameras behind him, and to be able to have the Cube in that thing was really cool. So yeah, that was a definite highlight. And then I'd say the next highlight was after the demise of the relationship between Ardupilot and 3D Robotics, and the whole drone code debacle where it got hijacked, and Ardupilot, which was the whole thing that was founded on, got booted because a certain company called, which maybe you might want to bleep out, decided that they wanted to assist in hijacking and ruining the industry a little bit. They really tried to destroy Ardupilot at that point, and we fought really hard, and it was a David and Goliath battle to keep Ardupilot running. Obviously, in the process of that didn't win me any friends at 3D Robotics. So I ended up on my bum without a job, trying to fight these giants. And then the partnership with Hex came along, and it became obvious we were actually going to be able to get the Cube finally to market.
Yeah.
Nearly 3 years after we designed it in the first place. And we had great companies like, SpectreWorks was behind us at the very beginning, and we had people like RF Design and Basque Aerospace that were just, hey, whatever you guys do, we're behind you 100% of the way. And they've been loyal from day dot, and it's been awesome, the support within the industry. So to finally get those photos of Cubes in packages ready to actually go out to the first customers, and this is real, that was amazing in itself. So I'd say that was, highlight to my own career. Yeah. Mm.
Yeah, I mean, the stuff that you guys put out, and I mean, the impact and what you have enabled, I think you probably don't realize the scale of what you have enabled until maybe like 20 years time, and you look back and go, man, I helped unlock that industry. Do you know what I mean? And maybe you don't fully see the impact of it yet. But I know from what I see on the forums and the discussions goes on that it's the Cube is, one of the most solid flight controller on the market. Especially recently with the updates you've been doing with the RTK enabling, etc. as well. And I know your mission is to just keep making it safer and safer and safer now and bringing in those redundancies. I mean, how many units do you estimate that you think are out there in the wild? Do you have a figure?
Oh, yeah. Look, I think at the moment between look, let's just talk cubes, not Pixhawks. Of cubes, we think we're around the 150,000 cubes or thereabouts out there at the moment. If we go Pixhawks and we actually include all of the Chinese copies of, Pixhawks, there's obviously the real Pixhawk, which is the 3D robotics one. You can't buy that anymore. MRO makes a Pixhawk, which I would say would be a genuine Pixhawk because Geordie obviously was one of the owners of 3DR, so that's a pretty legitimate lineage. But we've got all these other companies in China and that making them as well. If we look at the stats from Mission Planner, we're talking millions and millions and millions of units that are out there that are either our original work or the copies of our drawings by other people. So yeah, so it's pretty incredible. Obviously the whole team that put it together is, I don't think any of us quite figured out where it was heading. And when I joined the team, it was a cool hobby thing at the time. I didn't picture that it would be as big as it is. And now we've got UPS and DHL flying our cubes and actually doing deliveries. We've got people delivering kidney transplants with our cube. We've got
and that's cool. That's where it can really get to. Do you know what I mean? I mean, the technology that you've built is actually, contributing to better well-being and saving lives. And people can say that about in some kind of way indirect, but that's you guys. You guys are actually providing a piece of technology that is making that happen. And hats off to you guys. Absolutely.
I think really, I mean, the credit has to go to the community. I mean, the community, like we're nothing without Ardupilot. The Ardupilot community, Tridge and Randy and the rest of the team there, they do this, and they do this for nothing. They have other means of income, but it's Ardupilot that is their passion. And a lot of these companies and even these startups that actually use our cube, many of them don't actually realize what they're getting. I don't think the millions and millions and millions of dollars of time and effort that the team has put in, and they get that. I mean, yes, they have to pay their $250 for a cube. Well, this one's a little bit more; it's gold, but they have to pay about $250 for a cube. They get an ADS-B receiver with that, which by itself, that ADS-B receiver is $250. So, just on the hardware side, they're not paying much. And on the software side, they're getting absolute world-class everything. The guy that does the EKF is a world-class aerospace career avionics guy, and he's just incredible. So yeah, it's amazing the people that are involved. I actually had a bit of a stoush with a CEO of another autopilot manufacturer recently on LinkedIn. He is very anti-open source, and his comments I felt couldn't go unanswered when he was talking about, if people want free junk software, they'd go open source. And the ignorance of that statement is just amazing, because the quality of people that are actually within Ardupilot and the companies. I mean, we have Boeing, for example, have recently gone public on what they're doing up in Queensland, which is pretty incredible, with a whole bunch of swarming and drones that are interacting with each other, and they're all, they're using cubes. we can say that because you can see the gear sitting on top of the airframes, which is really cool. For it to get to the point that companies like Boeing and NASA and stuff like that are using our gear, they're the best of the best. And
yeah, I mean, what more credit do you need? Do you know what I mean? Just that statement alone. Are they the ones that get the gold ones? Are they the ones that get like the creme de la creme?
The gold ones, we actually started a competition last year at our conference where we have packed 5 gold cubes randomly, and we're yet to see the first one show up in the community, but it's probably sitting on a shelf somewhere in a warehouse that we've actually had to change the prize for that because it was a trip to our conference in China this year. Needless to say, we're not running that this year, and I don't think a flight to China is really top of anyone's list at the moment for a prize during this lovely little pandemic that we're having. So we've actually changed that. We've decided that instead of 5 cubes, there's actually going to be 100 cubes going out. So there's 100 gold cubes going out. It's really a thank you to our community. I mean, I wish we could thank everyone directly in a real way, but unfortunately. so we're going to put out 100 of them. Yeah.
What's the wildest implementation you've seen with the cube? Because I mean, I've seen some videos online of like guys automating their lawnmower with tipping trailers. Just to think, just sit there with a beer and just watch this thing mow the lawn. I mean, what's the wildest implementation?
I'm going to call out something that we definitely don't approve of. As Ardupilot, we have a code of conduct that anyone who's developing with Ardupilot, who's on the dev team, has to agree to the code of conduct and not help anyone who's doing bad things with the drone. So we definitely won't talk about any of those things that have happened. But also anything that's in charge of human life, we as a team, we've agreed not to assist people doing that. However, I think the funniest application that I've seen lately got a bloke named Tim French in a bit of trouble for aiding and abetting an illegal drone flight in Australia, where him and his mates decided to go fishing on an armchair while holding a beer underneath a drone. He actually got rubbished on YouTube as people thought it was CGI because the drone was too stable. I hate to tell them that was 100% genuine. You don't get fines for CGI. He definitely got fined. He definitely got busted, and that was a dual GPS cube at the heart of that aircraft. Definitely don't encourage people to do that at home. There was another one that was just on YouTube recently where a guy has made himself a bit of a hoverboard using a cube as well. Definitely, again, don't try this at home. I would say these people are professional. If you can call people on YouTube professional doing things like that, but okay, they're not. But definitely not worth replicating. We do not make things that this is not a human rated flight controller, so don't do this at home.
There you go. You've heard it from the man himself.
Yeah, but that's the crazy side of things. On the positive side of things, just the things like Man and Aero, doing what they do. They've done some pretty incredible humanitarian work, and they got the cube on that. We've got Matanet doing incredible things all over the world with freight delivery. Wingcopter doing some great stuff with freight delivery. Wingcopter a cube, but unfortunately they're still PX4. So we'll bit of a shout out to the PX4 guys. We love you.
So I guess then, I mean, what's next for you guys? What's the next thing that you are looking to kind of take the cube forward with?
Yeah, well, we've got obviously we've got a few accessories going around there. We've got we'll do the show and tell, the Healink, We've got the Here Pro GPS, and we've got a few other accessories in the works at the moment. A new battery for the 3D Robotics Solo, because 2015 is a little bit old for a battery. So we've got some new batteries coming along for that. Solo is totally there's no profit to be made for us at all. It's just my baby. So I like to keep supporting it. Shout out to Matt and Kelly, who do incredible work on continuing to support Solo too. So yeah. On the autopilot side of things, our focus at the moment is safety. We've introduced some new test gear at our factory. We've got an environmental chamber that every single one of our Cube Oranges will be going through. It gets a full motion test done, and then it sits in our environmental chamber for 3 days, cycling from negative 20 degrees to around 70 degrees. Up and down and up and down and up and down for 3 days, continuously gathering data and logging the whole time. We look for anything that is not A-OK, A-grade. If it's, we've actually been asked for A-grade cubes versus normal cubes. We actually have no interest in a normal cube. If it's not A-grade, it goes back. If an IMU isn't performing 100%, it's rejected and goes back either for rework or the grinder. So we've got those new tests happening. We've got a whole bunch of new jigs going. Sometime in the future, people will start noticing little QR codes turning up on their lids. Hopefully we get that system up and running soonish. You'll be able to scan that QR code and actually get all of your thermal chamber results and all that sort of stuff for your individual cube. To see what quality control it's been through and what abuse we put it through before it actually got to you. And if it, once that point turns up, all cubes that pass will get a QR code. So that'll be pretty interesting.
Fantastic.
And then we're committing to our customers that the footprint of the cube, so that allows it to fit on various different carrier boards. That's staying put. We're keeping that the same so that our OEMs that have put a lot of effort into designing their aircraft around the cube can keep getting the benefits we bring in the future. We've added a technical change notification system for the cube on our website. There's one issue up there that involves the connector footprint and asking for comments from our community. We would like to repurpose a couple of pins, so we want comment from our community if anyone's mortally going to be upset if we do that, because the next cube that we'll be designing, that will probably come out end of next year, is aimed at a whole next level of safety above what we're doing at the moment. So I won't give any details of that one away, but it's going to be a bit of a beast, and it's going to be a technical challenge to make happen. So not saying anything about the details of that, because the details are definitely subject to change depending on what is physically possible and what is not. So yeah.
No, excellent. I look forward to hearing more, and for our listeners, stay tuned, and we'll try and catch up with Philip in the future with those developments. Now, Philip, what is the best route if people want to get in contact with you with regards to the Cube Pilot? How can they get hold of you?
I'm pretty accessible. So if they go to cubepilot.com or cubepilot.org or cubepilot.aero, whatever you feel like throwing at the end there, you'll get to our main page. From there, you can get to either our docs or our forum. I'm on the forum as Philip Rowse, so it's pretty easy. I'm also, I don't tend to be on the Ardupilot forums as much these days because I'm pretty busy on our forums. But also, don't forget the Ardupilot guys. We don't exist without them. If you look at our website, you'll see that it's Cube Pilot, proudly running Ardupilot. Without Ardupilot, we're just a rather useless little desk ornament. So again, just feel free to get over to the Ardupilot forums as well. If someone tags me over there, I'll normally jump in eventually when I notice the tag. But yeah.
Excellent. Well, look, thank you for coming on the show, Philip. Please keep pushing the boundaries of innovation. I'm really looking forward to kind of, where you take industry and where the community begins like utilizing your next iteration as it might be. To our audience, I hope you've enjoyed listening to the conversation today. Over the next couple of weeks, we have Vic Terry coming on from Vertical Aerospace, Raphael Parker from Team Black Sheep, and Jess Joyce coming on from Rainmaker. So thank you again to Philip, and thank you to our subscribers. Please continue to like and share the content across Twitter and YouTube at Innovatio Aero. See you on the next one.